Kazakhstan, the world's largest landlocked country, stands as one of the least inhabited nations globally, characterized by an extremely low population density. Its expansive landscapes of steppes, deserts, and mountains appear almost devoid of life, a condition shaped not only by its vast geographic size, but also by historical and demographic factors. The enduring influence of nomadic traditions, Soviet-era policies, and the challenges of modernization have all contributed to Kazakhstan's sparsely populated nature. In this video, we explore these factors to understand why Kazakhstan remains uniquely empty compared to other countries. Kazakhstan, ranked as the 9th largest country globally, covers an expansive 2.7 million square kilometers. To visualize its size, imagine overlaying Kazakhstan onto Western Europe, spanning from Portugal to Poland, encompassing an area equivalent to multiple European nations combined. In comparison to the United States, Kazakhstan's territory stretches from the southern tip of San Diego to as far east as St. Louis, showcasing a geographical scale that rivals some of the largest countries in the world. Despite its immense landmass, Kazakhstan maintains a remarkably low population density. Recently surpassing 20 million people, the country's sparse population stands in stark contrast to densely populated regions like Western Europe, home to over 400 million inhabitants. Even the U.S. state of Florida, which shares a similar population number, occupies an area 16 times smaller than Kazakhstan. This disparity underscores Kazakhstan's status as one of the least inhabited countries globally, with a population density of just over 7 people per square kilometer, among the lowest worldwide. Several historical and environmental factors contribute to this distribution. Kazakhstan's severe climatic conditions range from frigid winters to scorching summers, impacting settlement patterns. Historically, the country's vast landscapes and nomadic traditions have shaped population dispersion, alongside Soviet-era policies that influenced urbanization and industrial development in specific areas while leaving others largely untouched. Kazakhstan, geographically the 9th largest country globally, spans an immense territory comparable to the entirety of Western Europe, or stretching from San Diego to St. Louis across the United States. Despite its vast size, Kazakhstan is among the least populated places on Earth. While Western Europe teems with over 400 million people, Kazakhstan's population recently reached just 20 million in 2024, fewer than the state of Florida, spread over a land area 16 times larger than Florida's. This disparity gives Kazakhstan an incredibly low population density, averaging slightly more than 7 people per square kilometer, ranking it as the 11th least densely populated country worldwide and the 2nd sparsest in Eurasia after Mongolia. What's particularly striking is Kazakhstan's demographic anomaly, being surrounded by significantly more densely populated neighbors on all sides. Russia to the north, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan to the south and west, and China's Xinjiang province to the east all boast higher population densities compared to Kazakhstan. This unique pattern resembles other sparsely inhabited regions like the Tibetan Plateau or the Sahara Desert. Despite Kazakhstan's vast expanse, even within Central Asia, Kazakhstan isn't the most populous despite its size. Uzbekistan supports nearly twice as many people with only a fraction of Kazakhstan's land. The country's harsh climate plays a crucial role in this demographic distribution. As the world's largest landlocked country, Kazakhstan lacks maritime influences, relying mainly on the Caspian Sea for moderating climate impacts. Consequently, Kazakhstan experiences extreme climate variations, characterized by severe winters and scorching summers. The majority of its landmass falls within the cold desert or dry semi-arid climate zones, which further deters widespread habitation. Historically and politically, Kazakhstan's demographics have been shaped by nomadic traditions, Soviet-era policies that concentrated development in specific urban centers, and contemporary challenges in modernizing rural and remote areas. These factors combined have contributed to Kazakhstan's distinctive demographic landscape, a vast territory sparsely populated amidst denser surroundings. Kazakhstan's vast geographic expanse, juxtaposed with its sparse population, underscores its unique demographic profile, shaped by harsh climates, historical legacies, and geopolitical influences. Kazakhstan stands as one of the least populated countries globally, despite its colossal size and strategic location in Central Asia. Since the 17th century, Kazakhstan has been profoundly shaped by colonization, forced settlement, and environmental challenges, leaving lasting impacts on its landscape and people. The Russian Empire's expansion into Central Asia, starting in the 17th century, aimed to secure southern borders and control the lucrative Silk Road trade routes. This expansion gradually incorporated the vast Kazakh steppe into the empire through military campaigns and treaties, leading to an increased migration of Slavic settlers who introduced unfamiliar farming techniques and administrative structures. By the 19th century, substantial parts of Kazakhstan fell under direct Russian control, marking the beginning of Russification efforts that transformed the region's social and cultural fabric. The Soviet era, following the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, brought even more profound changes. Kazakhstan became a constituent republic of the Soviet Union, ushering in an era of intensive and often brutal transformations. Soviet policies aimed to integrate Kazakhstan into the Soviet economic and political system, resulting in significant upheavals. One of the most devastating Soviet policies was the forced sedentarization of nomadic Kazakhs. For centuries, Kazakhs had adapted their nomadic lifestyle to survive the region's harsh climate and sparse resources. However, the Soviet vision of a modern socialist state deemed nomadic life incompatible. From the 1920s through the 1930s, Soviet authorities implemented collectivization policies, seizing livestock and land from nomads and reallocating them to collective farms. This drastic policy caused widespread disruption, leading to famine and the loss of traditional ways of life for many Kazakhs. The environmental impact of these policies was also significant. Mismanagement of natural resources during Soviet rule led to ecological degradation, affecting Kazakhstan's biodiversity and water resources. The Aral Sea disaster, caused by diverting rivers for irrigation projects, is one of the most tragic environmental legacies, resulting in the drying up of the sea and irreparable damage to the region's ecosystem. The Soviet era left a profound mark on Kazakhstan, which was characterized by devastating policies and environmental disasters that continue to impact the region today. One of the most tragic events was the famine of 1932-1933, which resulted in the deaths of millions of Kazakhs, roughly a third of the population at that time. This catastrophe not only drastically reduced the Kazakh population, but also reshaped demographic patterns in the region for decades afterward. In addition to these humanitarian crises, the Soviet regime pursued ambitious industrial and military projects with severe environmental consequences. Among these was the nuclear testing program at the Semipalatinsk test site, known as the Polygon, spanning from 1949 to 1989. Over 450 nuclear tests were conducted there, leading to widespread environmental contamination and significant health issues among the local population. The legacy of these tests continues to pose environmental and health challenges in the region. Another notorious environmental disaster under Soviet rule was the shrinking of the Aral Sea, once one of the world's largest lakes. In the 1960s, the Soviet government diverted the rivers that fed the Aral Sea to irrigate cotton fields in Uzbekistan and other parts of Central Asia. This diversion drastically reduced inflow into the sea, causing it to shrink rapidly. The shrinking of the Aral Sea devastated the local ecosystem, leading to the collapse of fisheries and severe economic hardships for communities dependent on the sea for fishing and transportation. This environmental catastrophe is widely recognized as one of the worst caused by human intervention, with enduring effects visible in altered climates and ruined landscapes across the region. Overall, the Soviet policies in Kazakhstan had profound and lasting effects, from demographic shifts due to famines to environmental catastrophes like nuclear testing and the desiccation of the Aral Sea. These legacies continue to shape Kazakhstan's social, economic, and environmental landscapes, highlighting the enduring impacts of historical decisions on the country and its people. During the first 13 years of the Soviet Union's existence, Kazakhstan remained legally under Russia's jurisdiction within the Soviet framework until 1936. During this period, Soviet authorities implemented significant policies that profoundly affected Kazakhstan's demographic, cultural, and economic landscape. One of the earliest and most impactful policies was the introduction of collective farming, which began immediately after the Bolsheviks gained control. Collective farms, primarily populated by Russian and Soviet deportees rather than ethnic Kazakhs, were established across Kazakhstan. The Soviet leadership, under Stalin's direction during the formulation of the first five-year plan in 1928, mandated the sedentarization of the nomadic Kazakh population by 1930. This policy aimed to meet ambitious agricultural and industrial targets by forcibly resettling Kazakh herders into collectivized farms focused on grain production, abandoning their traditional nomadic lifestyle and livestock-based economy virtually overnight. The transition was disastrous for the Kazakhs. Many wealthier Kazakh nomads, viewed as class enemies, were violently deprived of their livestock. The establishment of numerous collective farms drastically reduced available grazing lands, exacerbating the already challenging environmental conditions of the steppe. Between 1930 and 1931, Soviet authorities seized significant portions of Kazakhstan's grain and livestock to fulfill urban food demands in Moscow and Leningrad. Modern Kazakhstan is deeply influenced by its historical and geographical factors, shaping its identity and development trajectory. As the largest landlocked country in the world, Kazakhstan's geographic position far from any ocean has profound implications for its climate and economic opportunities. The absence of maritime influence results in extreme climate variations, characterized by harsh, cold winters and hot, dry summers. These conditions are challenging for dense human settlements and traditional agriculture. The majority of Kazakhstan's vast territory experiences either a cold desert or semi-arid climate, with very low precipitation levels throughout the year. This environment supports only hardy grasslands and shrubs, limiting agricultural possibilities primarily to grazing and the cultivation of drought-resistant crops. The central cold desert regions endure bitterly cold winters with persistent snow cover, while summers can be scorching, creating significant thermal amplitude that poses survival challenges. Being landlocked also historically hindered Kazakhstan's access to global markets and trade. Relying heavily on overland trade routes rather than maritime transport, Kazakhstan faced higher costs and logistical challenges, impacting economic development and access to international markets. Despite these limitations, Kazakhstan possesses abundant natural resources, including substantial reserves of oil, natural gas, and minerals. The economic and political legacy of Kazakhstan's Soviet past further shapes its modern challenges and opportunities. Following independence in 1991, Kazakhstan underwent a turbulent transition from a centrally planned economy to a market-based system. This period was marked by economic upheaval, widespread poverty, and demographic shifts due to the large-scale emigration of non-Kazakh populations seeking better economic prospects elsewhere. Kazakhstan holds the distinction of being the world's largest producer of uranium, supplying approximately 40% of the global market. This strategic advantage has bolstered its position in global energy markets, particularly amid increasing interest in nuclear power as a stable and environmentally favorable alternative to fossil fuels. Unlike the oil industry, Kazakhstan's uranium sector has provided a more stable income stream, contributing to a balanced economic portfolio despite its relatively small population. Since gaining independence from the Soviet Union, Kazakhstan has undergone significant demographic shifts. One notable change is the resurgence of the ethnic Kazakh population, which had dwindled to a minority during the Soviet era due to decades of immigration by Russians and other non-Kazakh groups. Government policies post-independence have successfully encouraged the return of ethnic Kazakhs from neighboring countries like Uzbekistan, Mongolia, and Russia. Incentives such as citizenship rights, financial aid, and resettlement assistance have facilitated this demographic recovery. These demographic trends are reshaping Kazakhstan's population profile, with ethnic Kazakhs gradually increasing their share while the proportion of ethnic Russians and other minority groups decreases. This evolution aligns Kazakhstan's demographic landscape more closely with its titular nationality, reflecting the country's unique historical and geopolitical context. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you find most intriguing about Kazakhstan's unique history and its evolving demographic trends? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay tuned for more insightful content like this. Your support means a lot. Thanks for watching. Don't hesitate to engage with us and share your perspectives.